What is a hit record for T minus in 2025? What does that look like to you?
It's hard to tell nowadays, man. Anything could be a hit. I always tell people, like, you can't stay in the basement and make music. Like, you gotta get out. I met Drake through Wanda. This was in high school. Long story short, you know, I ended up reconnecting with Drake down the line, and that's how we started working on Take Care.
This new generation of producers. How does the climate feel like to you?
I love what the new guys are doing, man. I'm always trying to learn what they're doing.
J.Cole, Middle Child. Tell me about that.
So I met Cole back in 2018. We linked up one time in LA and like just like hit it off. Like I just knew like, yo, this guy has great energy. So like when I did How Low, I was extremely concerned about like what was next. So when I signed my publishing deal, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna get some. I got a Honda Civic. I also didn't even know like, yo, when's the next time I'm gonna get a big check like this? I have no clue.
Tell me the difference between someone who makes beats, someone who's a producer.
I mean, bro, it's such a debate. Like, I'm actually so tired of that debate. Like, personally, I feel like Toronto's missing like infrastructure. You know what I mean? It always has. What are your thoughts on that? Like, why do you think that is?
What up, twin?
What's up, brother?
What's going on?
Good to see you.
First things first, most important question out of this whole podcast. Were we separated at birth?
Bro, honestly, the amount of times my wife has seen our pictures, like, you guys look so much alike. Like, she was looking at the interviews today and she's like, yo, that's your twin.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
My girls, if I throw on a toque, she's just like, take the toque off. I'm like, why? She's like, you look like Minus right now.
I know you told her that.
I've had enough people come up to me and be like, yo, you know who you look like? I'm like, yes, Minus. Like, yo.
No way.
I had somebody actually come up to me one time at a award show or something, and they're like, yo, what's good, man? Good to see you again. And I was like, yo, what's up?
Nah,
pleasure to connect.
What
yeah, and I just thought somebody I couldn't remember, right? And it's like, you know, remember when we connected at this whatever? I was like, no. He's like, Minus? I'm like, no.
Minus?
You know,
How long ago was this?
Less than a year ago.
That's crazy, bro. I remember last time I seen you was like we had a studio downtown. I forget which studio it was, but I remember when we ran into each other, we took that picture together. We're like,
A Kilometer.
Yes, Kilometer. That's what it was.
Yeah, Ronnie's spot.
That's so funny, bro.
Yeah, it's good, man.
Minute.
It's good to see you, man. It's been
too,
a minute, man.
You too, yeah.
I mean, look, you've worked with everybody, biggest artists in the world, you know. And really out the gate, I just wanted to ask you, what is a hit record for T minus in 2025? What does that look like to you?
That's a good question, man. I don't know, bro. It's tough to say. Honestly, I feel like it's hard to tell nowadays, man. Like the state of music, I feel like anything could be a hit, bro. I think it's all about the climate of the time and like, you know, what people are listening to, what people are feeling, what people are also not hearing. You know what I'm saying? I feel like there's always space for creativity and doing something fresh. And that's what I'm always trying to aim at. You know what I mean? Like I never wanted to be known, like getting into the game for just doing one sound.
Right.
Like during my intro when I did How Low Can You Go with Ludacris, this was like back in 2009. I remember like publishing companies and A&Rs being like, yo, give us another How Low, give us a How Low. And I was just like, nah, I can't give you another How Low.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just felt I never wanted to recycle the same thing. I never wanted to be known as that producer. I think organically though, like after I did like I'm On One with Drake and then like She Will and all these other joints, they all kind of had like a similar thread with the sound.
The sound.
Yeah. And that was just organic. Yeah, exactly. It just happened very organically. It's just, you know, it wasn't anything I was forcing. You know what I'm saying? But after that phase, I kind of felt like, yo, I just want to just do something different every time. You know what I mean? I always want to be known for like bringing like a new sound or something fresh to the table.
Well, when you were making those records, I mean, it was more of like I would say like a traditional sense where like everybody was hearing those songs.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas in today, it kind of seems like everything is splintered off and it's like really hard for everybody to really rally around one record. And I mean, when I mean everybody, I mean like the general public.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, music it's so viable, it's so accessible, but also it's so easy for people to just cook up and make music. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's so much music, brother. Like,
I mean, it's for real.
It's crazy. It's hard to separate yourself from other people, which is why being so unique, being special is super important. You know what I mean? Just bring your own sound to the table because there's a lot of copycats.
Yeah.
There's a lot of mimicking going on. You know what I'm saying? But
yeah.
I think it's always been that way in a sense, but now it's like even more difficult because there's just so much music. You know what I'm saying?
It's
like,
insane.
Don't they say like 60,000 records drop?
100,000 now.
100,000.
And they quoted that last year that it was
every day.
Every day, 100,000 on Spotify. So how do you even stand out from that? I mean, there's ways to do it, right? Like,
For sure.
what do you think makes you so unique?
Honestly, bro, I don't know what makes me unique, man. Honestly, it's not even up for me to decide. It's just for me, it's just all about like doing what I feel is right creatively and what I feel like what I want to hear. You know what I mean? Like I remember reading this book, one of Timbaland's books he wrote a few years back, but I remember he said like he always wanted to hear. It's almost like he wanted to hear what no one else was doing. He wanted to make what no one else was doing. You know what I mean? And you know, when I read that or when I heard that, I was like, yo, it really hit me. Like, what are people not making that you want to hear? And that's kind of what I do. You know what I mean? When I go to the studio, it's like, yo, what do I want to listen to? What do I want to make? And sometimes it might sound similar to other things, and that's okay. It's all a part of the process for me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I mean, bro, I feel like making music is like, it's hit or miss. You know, you got to
really.
Like I feel like I'll make a beat, and don't get me wrong. I think generally speaking, like most beats I make, they sound pretty solid. They sound good. But
I
like,
would say so.
I appreciate that. But yeah,
I think the general public would
right.
say so.
I would say, but it's like, but I feel like to make that thing like that, you want to call it a hit, or if you want to call it, you know, special. I feel like it just takes hitting the drawing board multiple times. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like just trying new things. Like, you know, it's to me, it's like a mixture of quantity but also quality.
Yeah.
Like going, like creating, almost like letting go of the mind and just like creating and cooking up, and then just like stumbling on some shit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
The consistency of that.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
Now I know you're more of a soft synth type of producer, but take me back, way back, Pickering High, when you weren't known as T Minus, or maybe you were, but maybe you were known as Tyler, but you had the drumsticks in the back pocket. Take me back to that time.
I mean, man, making music was just a dream, man. I don't know. I just, you know, I downloaded FL Studio when I was a little kid, and, you know, it was just like something I did as a hobby. I'd come home from school and I'd cook up, you know, and I eventually met Boy Wonder, who went to Pickering High School as well.
Yeah.
And we linked up, and, you know, I learned a lot from him, and we just shared so many ideas and cooked up so much, and I grew from that. But I just remember being a kid, like being obsessed with making music. Like I used to go to school. I had these drumsticks. I had this drum pad, and I'll be practicing. Like, I don't know if I wanted to be a drummer, if I wanted to be a music producer. I just knew I wanted to do something in music. So I don't know, man. I just kept at it. You know, I eventually met Drake through Wanda, and we
While in high school.
Yeah, this was in high school, and we did Replacement Girl.
Replacement Girl. So like 06, 07.
Bro, it was way back.
Yeah,
I want to say that.
Not to put you on blast.
No, it was way back.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. And then, long story short, you know, I ended up reconnecting with Drake down the line, and that's how we started working on Take Care.
That's crazy. The lineage over there at Pickering High. Like,
I know.
When I was talking to Bernie and Jordan, because it's Matthew Burnett, it's Jordan Evans, who we all know is amazing producers, but their management team for Daniel Caesar, and they're back in the fold now.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and there's you and there's Wonder. Like, how does that happen? Like, I'm fascinated by it.
Honestly, man, it's funny. I was just having this conversation the other week. Like, I think what it comes down to is community. You know what I mean? Like staying with people, collaborating with people, just being close to people, just being creative, man. Like Wanda and myself, we always wanted to like reach out to other people and collaborate and meet other people. Like we wanted to start a community essentially.
Yeah.
Where we were growing up, and you know, beyond just Pickering High, there's guys like Diesel who are from where we're from. There's guys like 1985 who was living out there too.
Down the street, right?
Yeah. So it's like we all tried to link up and like share music, share ideas. And I think we just all pulled from each other. You know what I mean? I think that was a big part of it. Was just like the gravitational force of just like being together and learning. You know what I mean?
Of course, I love that you say that, because like for me in my side of the music business, in my journey, one of the most important things was networking.
Mm-hmm.
Just connecting with other people, understanding how they operate, like what are their ideas. A lot of what the podcast that I do is networking as well too. It's like selfishly, I started this because I like to understand how somebody's mind works, right? But also provide value in the education, because I wish I had this when I was a kid, like people who are doing it at an elite level and crushing it. But I think the networking part of it is so valuable, of like, how does this work? How do you do things? Learning the tricks of the trade, right?
Definitely. I mean, I always tell people, like, you can't stay in the basement and make music. Like, you got to get out. You can't, like, I just said this the other day, like, you could spend, 2 years making music, but like with other people, learning from others, and be better off than the guy who spent 10 years by himself in the basement just cooking up. Because it's like, if you're just by yourself in your own mind, your own ideas, it's like you're not like sharing and you're not growing. You're not like getting criticism. Exactly. You know what I mean? So, bro, community is so important. You know what I mean, to the game.
And so when you were back in high school and Wonder was on at this point,
I think he was getting on. Like, I feel like he was, you know, Drake was still bubbling. You know what I mean? Drake had the record with Trey Songz, and you know, I think he was going to the States and working with Wayne and shit like that. But like, I don't know. I think this is like right after high school. You know what I mean? This
starts to
things start to pop off slowly. But it's funny because I wasn't really around in that early time. Like, I was doing my own thing. I was like shopping beats and stuff like that. Just getting placements here and there with like rappers and stuff like that. And I just remember when I met Ludacris, it just like that really like set everything off for me. You know what I mean? That. Yeah. So
before you met Ludacris, what can you tell me about Webwood's beats?
Oh my God. Who told you? Is this a Nardwar interview? Like, how do you know about Webwood's beats?
I can't reveal my sources.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Shut up, Bernie.
And you know, I had to be somebody from childhood. So it's so funny you say that, because there's this beat that I made and I sampled Donkey Kong like way back. Okay. And Webwoods is like the sample. I'm pretty sure that's like the name of the level or some shit. I sampled it and I ended up like giving it to Drake or something. And I remember one day heard it and he was like, "Yo, this is fire." I don't know if Drake was fucking with it, but it's just crazy, man. Like,
nothing ever came with it? Do you have that?
No, I don't know. It's got to be somewhere. It might be in a hard drive somewhere. It's from way back, bro. It's so crazy you mentioned that.
Wanted to throw one of those in there, you know?
No, for sure. Webwoods. When I hear that name, it's so funny. I laugh.
Yeah, I would love to hear that beat to see what it sounded like. You probably picked that beat apart at this point.
Bro, I actually remember exactly what it sounds like. I could probably remake it.
Crazy. So crazy. That's amazing, man.
Yeah.
I remember when I first heard How Low and thinking to myself, this sounds like nothing I've ever heard before. And it's Ludacris, because it's like, if we're being honest, like Ludacris kind of went away for a little bit, then didn't have a hit for a minute, and that became a massive record for him. Like, because that's like 2009.
Yeah.
Right? So that sound was so interesting to me when it first came out. What can you tell me from that record and how that came about?
Honestly, man, it just happened so organically. Like, I was just cooking up in my basement as a kid, you know what I mean? I think it might have been even 2008, even before that. And I remember finding this, like, that How Low Can You Go sample. And like, it was already chopped up. It was like, I got it from like some pack and it was already like good to go. So I was putting together the beat. I threw it in there, you know, did a bunch of stuff, produced it out. And I ended up sending it to Ludacris. And then he asked to hold. He's like, "Yo, hold this for me." And then, like, long story short, I ended up...
Well, how'd you connect with Luda in the first place?
So I had a friend of mine. His name's Brendan Millette. He was kind of managing me at the time. He had a management company. And he had a link with Ludacris. He had a relationship somehow. And Ludacris was coming up to Toronto, and he was shooting Gamers and Max Payne, these two movies. And I met him when I was like 18. I pulled up on him at Phase 1 one time, and... he was there. He was with Ninth Wonder working on a record for his album. And yeah, we just connected, man. He was a really great guy. Like, he mentored me in a sense. Like, he brought me in, and he was just like very open with like sharing, you know, the room with me and giving me a space to play music and meet some of the greats like Ninth, and also met DJ Premier. Like, it was crazy. Mind you, I'm 18 years old. I'm a kid from Canada. This is like pre Drake, like with Drake blowing up. So to me, it was like the reality of it happening was just like, it was distant. You know what I mean? Wow, this is really, really happening. It was unreal, bro.
And in that moment, that's easily like biggest star that you ever come across, right? Like, that's massive. That feels a world away from you.
Yeah, it was,
especially for us. Like, back in the day, we would be thinking that like it'd be impossible to break through that door.
For sure.
For a Canadian producer or artist, right?
Definitely. I mean, I always felt like it was extremely hard, man. Like, what Drake did is just like, people don't understand like what he really did, bro. Like, it was like near impossible, you know, because people used to clown the sound in here. People used to talk trash, you know what I mean? And say, even people from here would talk trash about our sound. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's like,
I do.
For Drake to do what he did, it's like, I don't think people really know, like, today, realize like the amount of work he put in and what he did for
the younger
city.
Generation.
Yeah.
Exactly. Here, you mean?
Exactly. Here, anywhere. It wasn't realistic. It wasn't. We didn't think it was possible until Drake did it. You know what I'm saying?
What was that like? Because you were at the forefront of that, crafting a sound that went global. You and your peers there in that time. What was that like?
I mean, bro, we didn't even know what we were doing, bro. We were just like, we felt like we were just kids, just like trying something. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I don't think we really had. Well, personally, I didn't have the vision to see like this is what was happening. You know what I mean? It was just like, oh, I'm just gonna continue doing what I love to do, make beats and send them to Drake or send them to whoever, and he would just take it from there. You know, he saw the vision and he believed in the records and the tracks, and the rest was history. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fire, man.
Yeah.
Okay, going back to How Low, you got a hit record.
Yeah.
I've heard you talk about this in other conversations and interviews, and I think you talked about it with Illmind, who you just spoke to. Shout out to Illmind.
Mm-hmm.
But you said something that was really important. You said, yo, I was very careful with my money.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little bit more about that and that thought process.
Well, for me, man, it's like I've always heard music was like a pipe dream, and like whenever you get a joint, it's like, yo, you gotta hope that you can get a second. So like when I did How Low, I was extremely, you know, I was not nervous, but concerned about like what was next. You know what I mean? I was like, I had this joint. I was grateful, 100%, but I was also concerned, like, yo, I don't know if I'll ever have a joint like this, because it was so big, and I was used to doing these album cuts. So I was like, let me appreciate this as much as I can. So when I signed my publishing deal and stuff, I remember having to decide on what kind of car I wanted to get. Like at the time, like I didn't even have a whip, bro. I was young. I wasn't even whipping. I was in the suburbs all the way in Ajax. So I was like, you know what? I need to get a whip. And I remember like picking out a couple of dealerships, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna get some. I got a Honda Civic, like got something really simple. You know what I mean? Because I was just like, it's my first whip. I didn't want to, I didn't want to go crazy the first time. And I also didn't even know, like, yo, when's the next time I'm going to get a big check like this? I have no clue.
Yeah.
So I was really careful.
And for context, that's a Hot 100 #6 record.
Yeah.
And so you went and you got your first publishing check. You went and you got a Honda Civic.
Oh, yes, bro. I know.
That's an important lesson. How long did you drive that Civic?
Bro, for like 4 years. Like in
so
the peak of my career, yes, bro.
I'm on one.
Yes.
Hell yeah, fucking right.
Yes.
Minus is pulling up in the Honda Civic.
Yes, bro.
To the sessions.
Exactly. I was pulling up, bro.
That's amazing.
Pulling up to the back. Honestly, it didn't bother me. It was kind of like I felt a sense of pride in a sense, because it's like no material owned me. You know what I'm saying? I felt at the time. I mean, now at this stage of my life, I'm a lot more comfortable. It's different. I'm much older now, but at the time, I was just like, I held on to that bad boy for as long as I could. Yeah. And I ended up getting into an accident in 2013, and it totaled it. But
so it was more like you had to get another whip.
Yeah, I did eventually. Yeah. But
what kind of a publishing deal did you do, if you don't mind me asking?
I did a co-pub deal.
Okay.
Yeah, I did a co-pub deal with Warner Chappell. This was 2010, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2010.
And what was the most important part of that co-pub deal for you?
Man, it was really two things. One, it was like I wanted some bread, but secondly, it was like I want to, diversify and have more relationships, work more. You know what I mean? Like I wanted to get in more rooms, and so I ended up doing the publishing deal, and I've been with them for a long time. I'm actually still with Warner because I've re-upped.
Was it with Ryan or Rich?
Ryan, yeah. Ryan. Actually, no. You know what? Juan Madrid. Was the guy who signed me. Yeah, years ago. And Ryan was actually under him at the time, which is so funny. But shout out Ryan. Yeah. And now Ryan's doing his thing. He's killing it. Guy. So, but yeah, no, it's crazy, man. I feel like if I look back, I wouldn't rush into a publishing deal, like looking back. But it's super important to stay networked and connected to people, especially out in LA. If you're living here, you're somewhere else. Like it's difficult.
Yeah. And at that time, it wasn't, I don't think, a time where it was like, because your PRO would be SoCan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but in the States it was
BMI. Yeah.
But they're not giving bags at that time.
No. SoCan or BMI?
Yep. Well, both.
Well, BMI like close, like maybe a year or two after, they were giving out bags.
Yeah, okay.
But SoCan wasn't.
Yeah. And was that the first PRO that you registered with? Was SoCan?
Yes, it was. Yeah, from years before I registered with SoCan.
If you don't mind going into this a little bit, but like, tell me the importance of having a good relationship with the PRO.
I mean, to be truthful, I never really had a great relationship with my PROs. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, when I signed with BMI, I did.
Yeah.
I worked really closely with this lady named Nicole Planton. She was over there at the time, and just nice to be connected. You know what I mean? I met other people through her and stuff like that. It was great, but um, from that point, I never really needed the PROs. I never really went back. I think SoCan has had more efforts in the last few years at like building relationships with their producers and their writers and stuff, which is awesome. But it wasn't really anything here at the time.
Yeah. So you're going through that time, and now, it's like 2012, 2013, Honda Civic write-off. But you're on a super wave.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then you kind of chill out for a little bit.
Yeah.
What was it that was like, I mean, I can tell you, and the music business is insane.
For sure.
Right? So you decided to step away from that for a little bit?
I took a break, man. I was young. I was maybe 23 at the time, maybe 24. And I was just feeling super drained, super overwhelmed. Like, I was almost even letting like the game get in my head as far as like the business and stuff like that. Like I was losing the joy of what I was doing essentially. Like I got into the music because I just love making music. I love being creative. But then when like opportunities came and money came, it was like, it was becoming a lot for me. Yeah. It was almost like too much. It was almost like I was taking opportunities and situations for, financial reasons and not for creative or not for the joy. Whereas like before I would, I'll be about the creative and taking my time, but I was just like, I gotta just go. And eventually I just hit a point where I was just like, I'm chilling. I was still creating. Yeah. Don't get it twisted. I was still making music, but like I wasn't like doing sessions and like sending beat packs out or anything like that. It was for a short time. It was maybe like a couple of years. Yeah. 2-3 years.
But that could feel like a lot of time when you're going through it, right?
For sure.
Especially, man, like I learned that too a long time ago, that like money, it's great. Don't get me wrong. Like it can solve a lot of problems, and I'm somebody who likes to, comfort. But if it's not doing something that you absolutely love, it's fucking next to impossible for me personally to do it.
I agree.
I have a lot of respect actually for like my folks, like my dad, worked at a factory 9 to 5, just grinding it out. Yeah. No option of that becoming a bigger thing, but just like putting food on the table. Like, I don't know how he did that.
For sure.
A lot of respect for that. But for me personally, like, it's really hard to get into a creative field in this business and not do something that you really enjoy doing. Like,
for sure, man. I also think, they say more money, more problems, but I think like in a sense, when you have more money, it's like you have more opportunities to be lazy, more opportunities to like, be selfish in a sense, or not show up or not deliver. And I think that happens too with a lot of people who they get on, they start to reach a peak or a high point in their career, their life. And then all of a sudden, you'll see it online. Like you'll even see with artists, like they start talking out their neck crazy. It's like they almost forget like where they came from, or they're talking bad about this situation or that person. And it's like, you could tell like, it's
getting to them.
It's getting to you. You know what I mean? That never really happened to me per se. Like I wasn't losing any sense in that way, but it was more for me. I was just like, I was fucking tired. You know what I mean? I was fucking drained. Like I was, like growing up, even like making music, like I would come home from school, bro, and I'd be on the computer like from like 3-4 p.m. to like 11. Like I was making music, bro, every day from like 14, 15. Forever. And then when I got old enough to not have to go to school and not go to bed at a decent time, I was up till 6 in the morning. You know what I mean? Cooking. So it was like my life, bro. It was my life for real.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you were a computer guy, right?
For sure. Yeah. I always thought I would do something with a computer. I think that's what it was too. Like I like computers. Like I like designing. I thought maybe I was going to be an illustrator, like a cartoonist.
Oh,
that
really?
was something I wanted to do as a kid. Like when I was really young, I wanted to do cartoons. But for some reason, like my love for the visual arts became love for the music. You know what I'm saying? So
that's funny. Me too. I used to illustrate when I was a kid.
Really? That's crazy.
Yeah. Because my cousin, remember he was an illustrator. I used to be fascinated. He'd do a lot of.
What would you draw?
So when I'd go to Colombia for the holidays, the summer holidays, and I remember my mom enrolling me into like this art school there for like a couple of weeks. So they taught me how to draw like landscapes with like charcoal and shit like that. Yeah, but then I was like, I would want to draw comics.
Yeah.
So I started messing around doing doing a little bit of that. So So then when I was like in elementary school, I'd be always drawing like, Ryu, Street Fighter and Mortal
Yes,
Kombat
bro.
and shit like that, Batman, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I was doing like Dragon Ball Z and
Yeah,
all kinds
exactly.
of
All the
shit.
cool
Yeah,
shit,
yeah,
you know
yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah. As a kid, and it's like you want to emulate that, you want to recreate that. That's kind of like what happened with music. It's like hearing the sample based guys like Kanye and Just Blaze. I was like, yo, I want to make beats like these guys. Like I just wanted to emulate them. I just
Yeah.
wanted to copy them.
Yeah,
And
well,
then-
yeah.
And then
And then
eventually
you're copying them when you're first starting, right?
Exactly. I was just copying. Honestly, bro, sometimes I still have that spirit to this day. Have you ever read Steal Like an Artist?
No, I haven't, but I know the book.
It just pretty much touches on the fact that like, yo, like we're all kind of borrowing from each other, like
Nothing new-
subconsciously. There's nothing new under the sun. There you go.
Twin.
So,
Twin.
My boy.
You know what's crazy? I realize that a lot with a lot of people who produce, they're not really listening to the lyrics that much.
Oh, bro. It's so crazy. It's so crazy you say that because I believe that.
Yeah.
Because I barely listen to lyrics, bro. When
You
I'm
listen to
when I'm
lyrics.
when I'm listening to a song, I'm listening to the beat, I'm listening to the melodies, I'm listening to the tone, but I'm not listening to the lyrics half the time. That's the last thing I'm paying attention to. Because that's
so interesting.
Because to me, it's like it's a different part of my brain where I'm like I have to focus and like pay attention to like what's being said. Whereas like I just want to feel what's happening.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Versus like taking it in.
Yeah, like studying.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? To me, it's a different type of listening.
That was the first time I really started to listen to lyrics was Jay.
Really?
Yeah. Because I just remember being just, I don't know, like a point in my life where I was like trying to figure things out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I had to get to this next level. And I just remember taking in the Blueprint all day.
Yeah.
Every day I'd be listening to that, taking a bus to Yorkdale to go to my job.
Blueprint came out?
Blueprint
like
01. 01. So I'm
You're like 16, right?
16, 17.
17, yeah.
Yeah. And I used to work at Indigo Cafe. And I remember just listening to that all the time. You don't know. He's saying something like 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, 4, and just for you, 40 million more. You are looking at one smart black boy. Mama ain't raised no fool.
Yeah.
I'm hearing all that. I'm like, Jesus. But it was a line that he said like, I sell ice in the winter. I sell fire in hell. I am a hustler, baby. I sell water to a well. Jeez.
Yeah.
I heard that. I was like, this guy's different.
Yeah, no.
And it just took taking in these gems of like how he built Rockefeller and his net worth and all this
For
stuff.
sure. I mean, he said it first and then he did it.
And then
You know
he
what I
did
mean?
it.
Like,
Yeah.
He became a huge mogul after that.
Yeah, absolutely. So nothing new under the sun. You were reading that book. You were telling me about that book a little bit. Do you remember that? That's how it is?
Steal Like an Artist.
Steal Like an Artist, yeah.
Steal Like an Artist.
When did you start to come into your own sound?
I don't know, man. Like it's hard to say.
Happened kind of naturally?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, it was it was just everything that I loved in music, like all the things I learned and the people who I was kind of emulating, just becoming its own thing. You know what I'm saying? I feel like that's like the natural growth of any creative. It's like you learn, you adapt, and then you make it a part of your, you know what I mean, your sauce or what you do. So I don't know, man. I think eventually maybe like 2011, I felt like I really came into my sound. Probably 2011, 2012.
Yeah.
You know, but I feel like creativity is a journey. So it's like once you figure one thing out, it's like, how are you going to do the next thing? Or how are you going to push the boundaries further? You know?
Yeah.
I think that's always a challenge.
Do you remember a specific time that you had a breakthrough when you were like trying to figure something like, oh man, I got, like, even if it's a technical thing, something that I may not understand, but the producer world will understand.
I mean, shit, I feel like it's a constant thing. I mean, back in the day when I was making beats, they didn't have YouTube where you could just go on and like search a technique or
True.
You kind of that was the importance of community too at the time, because it's like you learn from other people you're around. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it was just like, I don't know, bro. It was just like trying new things and learning. Like for me, a lot of it was like learning chords because I wanted to know how to play and I didn't know how to play. I didn't know how to play the keys at all. Growing up, I took music in high school and I took percussion and with drums and stuff. You gotta learn the xylophone, but the xylophone is like, it's a musical instrument, but I didn't understand how it worked because it's like, you know, it has C, D, E, F, G. Drums are just like, you hit it when it's time to hit it type shit. And I just like that. I was like, I just want to play the drums. So I actually did so bad in music class. Like I got like 60s, 50s. Like I was a music failure, you know what I mean, in high school. Which is kind of crazy. In school. But ended up happening was, I just wanted to learn.
Really?
And I would listen to other songs and try to learn how to play them back. And I just learn. Now it's like, bro, I understand music so much better, just
Yeah.
like self-taught. You know what I mean? I feel like that's the best way too.
Yeah.
You really learn like there's no rules with music when you're self-taught, as opposed to like learning from like a book or sheets where it's like, oh, this is how you play. This is the
Yeah.
robotic motion of how music should be. It's
Mhm.
like, no, it's supposed to be creative.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I feel like all the great geniuses, they know how to do that. They know how to create from like outside the box. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So
How, and I always am curious about this, but especially in hip hop, if you could like tell me the difference between someone who makes beats and someone who's a producer.
I mean, bro, it's such a debate. Like, I'm actually so tired of that debate. Like, personally,
Okay.
like I see the conversations. Like, I'm a beat maker, or I'm a producer. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not just a beat maker. It's like, I get it, man. Like, a beat maker is someone who they say programs beats. Like, they put together a beat. Like,
Yeah.
they'll grab the drum sounds, they'll make a pattern, they'll grab their pianos and play out whatever. And then a producer will oversee a project or oversee a song. They'll take it from point A to Z. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? They'll follow the whole step. They'll be with the artist,
Yeah.
make sure the record's getting recorded. To me, it's like, I think you're a producer whether you make beats or you oversee a record. You know what I mean? Because producing, bro, like, it's different than it was back in the day. Like now, back in the day, it was completely overseeing. Like, producers weren't really involved in any of the composition. They weren't really involved in any of the detailed creative work. You know what I mean? They weren't like picking up the guitar and coming up with riffs and melodies and stuff like that. They were just like, okay, let me bring this guy.
They
in.
were hiring
They're
they had session
hiring. They're
players.
hiring
Yeah.
people. They
Yeah.
had to have an ear. It's
Yeah,
not
for
to
sure.
put anything down. That was a
Yeah.
producer. It was still a
Right.
crazy skill, but nowadays I think it's, in a sense, it became easier but difficult in the same sense, because it's like everything's accessible now. Like, you could pull up a plugin or a VST and you can pull up a brass sound and play it on a keyboard, and there you go, it's done. But
Right.
you have to come up with that shit.
Yourself.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Yourself. You got to write the music.
That's very true.
And pick the right sounds most of the time. You got to pick the right vibes. Like, that's a big part of my production too.
I never thought about that actually, because that's a good perspective to have on it, because it's so true. I mean, like, you have to come up with so if you're a quote unquote beat maker, like, but that person still has to make the whole thing, and it's got to sound dope
Yeah.
for somebody to go and like actually record their vocals on that shit. So
for
you're
sure.
producing regardless. Might not be producing in the studio with the person, might not be getting the session players, but like also like as kid in the basement can't afford session players, right? So they're just gonna
Yeah.
create with all this stuff themselves.
For sure. So that's how I look at it, man. I also think like
Yeah, it's a good perspective.
a big part of producing or making beats is like creating a cohesive like canvas for an artist to jump on. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like whenever I make a beat, like, I'm always stacking the right sounds on each other. Like, to me, that's like, it's not just about like, oh, let me just whip something together. It's like, oh, how does this feel with this? How does that feel with this? Like,
Yeah.
I'm collaging and I'm like auditioning different things, almost like finding the right roles, right people for a movie.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, or like finding the right clothing for an
It's a good
outfit.
analogy.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm always trying to pick like the best shirt to go with these pants, to go with these shoes. You don't just grab it's like, you don't just grab any shirt or any pant.
Yeah, yeah.
You don't
yeah.
even, and you don't grab your favorite shirt and your favorite pant, because they might not go well together either.
Right.
You got to grab the right shirt with the right pants and the
Yeah.
right shoes. So that to me is a process in itself. So that to me is producing. You know what I mean? As
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
That's a good approach. I mean, that's an approach you've kind of thought about as you went on?
Yeah, for sure. I think like a guy like Wanda is like, he's amazing at that. Like, he's been great at that since he was like a youth, like since he was like 15, 16, since I remember hearing him make beats.
Yeah.
And that to me is like the tell of a really great producer too, is like how well they can put together sounds and vibes. It's like Timbaland's another great one at that. Dr. Dre, he's a legend at that. All the greats are really good at that. That to me is a really good tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Swiss, Ye,
Yeah.
Blaze,
Yeah.
Math Wonder. I mean, yeah.
For sure. But those guys I mentioned, they that's what set them apart from most, is their ability to canvas a beautiful track with like the right sounds, like the right snare drum, the right kick. As much as like the consumer doesn't notice, or like the people listening don't really notice, it's like you can feel the difference.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can really feel the difference.
Even though, like, yeah, I think
You would know for sure, because you're a music guy, but like even just the regular person might not hear it.
Right.
Like when I'm in the studio, right, and I'm making a beat, I'm going through like, bro, if I'm making a beat, I'll go through like hundreds of like the same sounding sounds. Like I'll go through 100 kicks, like boom, 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 boom. They all sound the fucking same to like a regular person, but I can hear like, oh no, this
of course
doesn't feel right with this. So let me find the right one. That is a process in itself. You know what I mean?
Do you have patience to do that because you love it so much?
Yes, I love it. That's like one of my favorite parts. It's like the aha moment, like when you're like going through something and you're like, ah. It's the same way like going in your closet and you're like,
found the right shirt.
Yeah, exactly. Like you have your jeans, like, nah, maybe. You feel like you're forcing it in a way. And you're like, oh shit, yeah, no, that's it. That looks fire. Like, you know, and that feeling, it's like, it's the best feeling, man.
That's amazing that you can do that.
You made me want to go cook right now, bro. I want to go home and
the studio's
cook.
right here, apparently. You know what I mean? My bad, not to take too much of your time over here on this pod, you know? Listen, a lot of people want to know this kind of stuff. I think it's amazing that, that you're able to like, your mind works in like really interesting ways, in my opinion. I say, I know you're a humble guy, but like you're a genius in your craft. You're incredible at your craft. You are one of the best. It's like those guys that you mentioned, like the Dre's and the Timbalands, you're there with them, you know?
That's crazy.
And I'll say it, is go as far as saying it, like, you know, you have exceeded them in a lot of, I know you'll never say that. I'll say it. Maybe it's because I'm like proud to be from Toronto, you know, same city. But your run is insane. It's like at this point, you know, T-Minus's production is standing out there at the forefront with massive artists, more than those guys. So what does that even feel like?
I mean, damn, I can't fully co-sign that because these are the GOATs to me, and these guys, they had runs too. Like,
no, they did. I know.
I know. I appreciate though. I appreciate the sentiment though, for sure.
But you're there. You're on that same level. You're a younger generation, but you're there. You know, to be. I'm sure you've heard this before, but like the comparison of the, what does that feel like to get that kind of comparison?
It's unreal, bro. I don't even.
You shy away from it, eh?
Well, because it's like I don't want to believe it. You know what I mean? In a sense, like I don't even want to buy into it because I feel like there's so much more for me to do.
Yeah,
and I want to keep going.
Yeah,
I feel like as soon as your ego grabs hold of some shit like that, it's like, yeah, no, I'm great. I don't need to change. I don't need to grow. Like that's the next process of thinking. So it's like for me, it's like I appreciate feeling like, yo, I haven't learned enough. I actually, so funny. I actually just ran into one of my brother's friends earlier today, and he makes beats too. And I was just telling him like, he was just saying like, yo, like let's link up, like we can cook up. I'm like, yeah, bro. I'm like, you could show me some things, and he's just like, stop that, like stop. I'm like, no,
you're
for real. I'm like, bro, no, like I still want to learn, like I still want to grow. You know what I mean? I heard like even Denzel Washington was taking like acting classes as a legend. You know what I mean? Like, to me, that's the type of producer I want to aspire to be, or just human being. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, I heard Denzel talk about that. We was giving some education, putting some people on game. He's like, go learn in the theater.
Yeah.
Not on the phone, the theater. Just go and learn.
Exactly.
How do you keep that ego in check?
Man, I don't know, bro. It's tough. It's tough. It's ups and downs. It's ups and downs, bro. Because like at some moments, like when you do great work, you feel like the shit. You feel great, and it's not a bad thing to feel that way and have the confidence. But at other moments, it's like you feel like fuck, like you know, it's what's the term? Like it's like imposter syndrome. Like you get a bit of that sometimes. Yeah, like that still happens.
That's a real thing.
You know what I mean? I'm like, oh man, I can't. Man, I don't know if I'm that good. To my wife sometimes, I'm like, babe, I don't even know if I still got it. Like. She's like, shut up.
You're bugging.
Go make some music. Like, go play in your studio. Go make some music.
How do you get through that? You just start cooking up?
Yeah, I just let go of the thinking, man. It's the thinking that gets in the way. That's always the enemy, bro. Like the mind just overthinking, because it's like music is just, it should be a completely like present experience. It should never be like, oh, I'm gonna try and do this. It's like, yo, what feels right now? And then you just take it one step at a time, and out of nowhere, you're making something fire, or different, or dope, or you're not, and then you try again, and you stumble on some shit.
Can we go into some of the records that you've made?
For sure, yeah.
Okay, I got a list here, man.
Right.
I mean, I can say them off the top of my head, but I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. So we talked about How Low. Tell me about Moment for Life, Nicki Minaj.
Moment for Life, man. So how that came about, it was just, man, I was just in the studio. cooking up. I actually linked up with one of my boys. His name is Nikhil Sitharam. He's a composer and
From British
producer.
Columbia?
No.
Vernon?
No,
Oh,
he's
okay.
from here. He's from out here.
Okay.
I actually met him at a Best Buy one time. Like he just recognized me and I linked with him. He's like, I make music. I was like, dope. I brought him over to the crib one time
Yeah.
and he pulled up.
That's
and,
sick. Sorry, not to cut you off, but like you're a very approachable guy, man, which is amazing.
I
Like,
appreciate
I
that.
think that's what keeps the door so open for you because you're very approachable and then like willing to learn so much.
For sure. Appreciate
That's
that, man.
amazing.
Yeah. So he ended up pulling up and he got on the keyboard and he started playing the Moment for Life melody. He's like, dun, 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 dun. And I was like, yo. I was like, I stopped him right away. I'm like, yo, bro, like, let me cook on that. Like, that sounds crazy. Just like, obviously when you hear Moment for Life now and you hear that, dun, 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 you just know what it is. He did that. He actually played that. So I was like, yo, let me cook on this. So
Like
I started
freestyling.
Yeah, he was just fooling
freestyling.
around. Yeah,
Wow.
that's how it always is though in the studio. It's always a freestyle.
Mhm.
But he ended up coming up with that idea, that melody, and I just took it from there and produced a joint out. I spent a lot of time on that joint. That's probably like one of the only joints I ever created where I spent like more time than the others, like ample time, like hours, or as opposed to like a joint like Moment for Life took like 30 minutes, or I'm on one took like 40 minutes. You know what I mean? Like, but that joint I spent time like producing it out.
Wait,
And-
Moment for Life took time to
yeah, it took me
produce
some
out.
time. Like I was very like intentional and careful, and I treated it like with a lot of love.
Did you already know you were gonna give that to?
No, I had no clue, bro. This was just
You
a
just
beat.
spent time on
When
it.
I made the beat, bro, I wasn't like at the time, mind you, this is like 09, 08, maybe 08, 09, 10. But I remember thinking like, yo, this would be dope for like some girl pop group. That was my thought when I made
Okay.
it. I wasn't thinking rapper, wasn't thinking even Nicki Minaj. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I gave that beat and a couple of the beats to Wanda. He was like, "Go send me some beats," and I sent him some beats, and he ended up sending a few of those beats to Drake, and then Drake took it. I'm pretty sure Drake wrote his verse first, and then he, gave it to Nicki, and she did the hook.
Oh, fire.
Yeah.
Also, he heard it first, and
Yeah, he had the vision first.
he's got one of the best ears.
Yeah, he's insane.
Yeah.
He's insane.
Speaking of Drake, can you tell me about the motto?
Oh yeah, so pretty much with the motto, it was kind of random, bro. It was like the album was pretty much wrapping up. Take care, and he reached out and he was just like, called me on a flight. And he's like, yo, make me a beat like real quick. I need something like this. Like he had the vision for the track. He already knew what he wanted.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, I took the opportunity. It was like 4:00 in the morning. I was like, let me just whip this up quick. So I made him a beat. Yeah, like
night owl hours.
Yeah, exactly. Mind you, I'm young too. I'm hungry, right?
Hell
so it's
yeah,
like
you're awake.
exactly.
You're working.
I'm ready.
You're good.
I'm
Yeah.
ready. So I whipped something up like 30 minutes, sent it to him. He's like, yo, take this sound out, take that sound out, take this out, and like send it back to me. I'm about to be at the studio in like a couple hours. So I take out these sounds, send it back to him. And then within like the next day, he's like, yo, I did this joint, bro. It's like, I'm gonna call it the motto. It was insane, bro. It came out within like a week or two after that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was quick. That was one of those joints where it's like, I mean, there was a whole time actually, the last like 3 weeks of working on that album. Like we did like HYFR, we did the motto, we did Make Me Proud, we did those 3 joints.
Jeez.
Yeah,
All
within the last
week.
3 weeks.
Last 3 weeks.
First 3 weeks, 2.5, I'd say, yeah.
Those are some of the biggest records on that.
I know, it's
project.
crazy. Sometimes it's like when you just catch that moment, or like when it's crunch time, it's like you gotta deliver.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You gotta
Yeah,
bring
yeah.
it. You gotta bring the heat. That happens sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you said one of those records, Hell Yeah, Fucking Right. Do you remember what that was like? How you landed on that?
It was funny because I was in the studio with him. This isn't even the end of the project, and he's like, "Yo, I have this fire sample that I found," and he plays it. It's by this group called ESG, or I think it's an artist or group, but he's like, the song was called "Swangin' and Bangin'." It was a DJ Screw.
I know
think it was like a
ESG.
remix. Yeah. And so he plays it, and it's a dope sample. He's like, "Yo, if you can make a beat with this within 24 hours, I'll give you 10 grand." Like, I'll just give you like on a bet.
It was just like a bet.
yeah.
Like
He's like betting me.
yeah.
I was like, yo, bet. I'm like, I'm gonna take it home and make this beat. So I made a beat over the sample and I sent it to him. He's like, nah, this ain't it.
Oh.
And at the time,
did you lose the bet?
No,
You
I
pay
didn't.
him
It wasn't
out?
done. It wasn't done. It wasn't done yet. I had nothing to lose. I wasn't gonna pay him 10K. He was just like, yo, I'll give you 10K if you can make this beat.
Yeah.
So I was gonna take it. So anyway, so it didn't land the first time. The beat HYFR, like when I first made it, it was like, mind you, he didn't give me any vision for what he wanted the song to be. He's just like, make a beat with this sample. So I made like some like It's almost like I almost copied like what he did on Practice, where he did like an
Mm,
R&B version
okay.
of Back That Ass Up.
Yep. Yeah.
So I did like an R&B version. And he's like, no, this is not it.
Oh, that's what you
So
originally did.
that's why I did. So then I was like, let me try this shit again. So I turned it up a little bit.
Mm.
Did something a little bit more heavy. Sent to him. He's like, yo, yeah, this is it. Perfect.
That shit's a banger, man.
Yeah, I
That's such
appreciate
a
it.
good
He gave
track.
it to Wayne. Wayne did his verse. It
Yeah,
was
that
great. It
shit's
happened
fire.
so quick, bro.
So when something's happening that quick, and then you're saying, like, for example, the model, right? Drops 2 weeks later. What's that process like being like, nothing's getting really papered up in that situation, right? Like before, or is it getting sorted out as much as possible? So walk me through. You don't have to walk me through necessarily that, but like, what does that look like? Getting everything in order to make sure that that record is coming out, and you're also sorted.
Honestly, bro, I feel like just the way the business works, I find that artists and labels, they think about that shit last. Like,
For sure.
like if you're talking about clearance, let's say, right?
Yeah.
Are we talking
Yes.
about clearance? Or are we talking about like stems? Are we talking about?
I'm talking about clearance.
I mean, bro, for me, like I'm pretty easy when it comes to working with artists. So like the business can come later just because it's like, yo, I want to get this shit out. Like I would never hold
You
up a
never
record.
hold up a record.
No.
Yeah,
That's
no,
so
I don't.
unnecessary.
Yeah.
It's never
How
personal.
important is that
Was that
to
not
not hold up a record? Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's good for the relationship if you want to keep the relationship. It's
Yeah.
never good to like be an asshole and like try to block people and stuff like that. I get people have principles.
Sure.
People like to do business a certain way, but I also understand like this business is really different, man. Like an artist will do like 100 songs and they'll maybe keep 15 or 20. So it's like a lot of music gets made, a lot of music doesn't get put out. And sometimes in the last week or two, like artists will cut songs or labels will cut songs. So it's like you can't always guarantee that you're gonna get paid. You know what I mean? So for me, it's like, okay, yeah, if it's guaranteed to come out, yeah, for sure. Like I would love for the business to go through. You know what I mean? But
prior to it coming out.
yeah,
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
love for it. But if it doesn't, man, I never tripped.
Yeah.
I've never tripped in the past. No, to me, it's not worth it.
You may alluded to something that I wanted to ask you because you're talking about delivering stems and all that. Something I think that's an underrated conversation is how organized a producer needs to be in order to make sure that they get everything delivered on time. How important is that? You think?
Man, super important. Like obviously, you definitely need your files together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And stems, but sometimes you get trouble. Like I've had issues where like I couldn't get stems. You know what I mean? Like
Really?
like files disappeared. I had to give them the 2-track. Like I had joints on albums that never got mixed. It's just
Crazy.
so it's like yeah.
Tell me about Heartbreaker. Heartbreaker?
Heartbreaker.
Yeah, Heartbreaker,
Yes.
Justin Bieber.
Yeah. Just how that came about.
Yeah.
I was in the studio in LA one time. I want to say back in 2012. I was with my guy. His name is Josh Valle. He's a guitarist. He's fire. Really sick guitarist. It was our first time like really linking in the studio, and he just started playing that guitar riff. I just put together some drums, put together a beat, and I just had the beat sitting there for a bit. And funny enough, you familiar with Eric Bellinger?
Yeah.
He actually got a hold of that beat and he did a song to it. And he wanted to put it out, and I told him like, "Yo, bro, like, don't put this out," because I just got news that like Bieber wanted to use it. So I was like, "Don't put this shit out."
What's that combo?
Huh?
What's that combo like?
I mean, it was just that. That's exactly what it was like. That's all I said. He's like, "All right, cool, bro." The song ended up leaking or some shit. It came out.
Oh, it did?
I was like, "Yes, bro." I was like, "Why is this song out, bro?"
Oh.
I'm like, I thought he was gonna kill the whole situation. But long story short, I think it either got taken down or probably still up on YouTube somewhere. But Bieber ended up putting it out anyway. So I was like, it was a dope look, man. It was a dope look, yeah, for sure. I mean, you know what? B Major, I don't know if you're familiar with him.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
a producer writer.
Yeah.
He ended
Yeah,
up
yeah.
taking it. He brought that shit home. Like he like produced on it a bit after. Like he's close with Bieber, so he took care of that whole record. Like I didn't even meet Bieber. I didn't even know him.
Oh, really?
He just walked that shit in.
He walked it in.
Yeah.
That's important, that collaboration with other producers. You do that quite often.
More now, man. Back in the day, like I was like so selfish when it came to like making music. Like
Really?
I was very self-centered. Like in my early
Sure,
times.
sure,
Like
sure.
I had so much creative energy and energy in general, bro. I just wanted to like cook up, and I had vision, like more vision. I still have vision now, but it's like I'm more open to hearing ideas. You know what I mean? Like I like hearing what other people have to say or other people's thoughts are on records that are producing. for me, it's like it's a shared space.
Yeah.
So when I like to collaborate a lot more. It was really J.Cole that got me cooking up more with other people because he would kind of cultivate a room full of other producers playing different roles. So it really helped.
I'm gonna get to Cole, but before I get to Cole, you're talking about when you were a younger producer. What can you tell me about this record here? Yo, I got a real soft spot in my heart for this record. I love this song.
Why is that? Where does the soft spot come from? I know.
Shout out to Chase. Shout out to Nose.
Oh, because you know again, you know them.
Yeah. A Game. I think they go by duo now, but
Yeah.
no, you know why? It's because I come from the film production world.
Okay.
Right, so
I didn't know that, by the way.
Oh, really?
No, I didn't know.
Yeah, it's like it's crazy that how many people don't know about that. But I started a production company called Mad Rock Entertainment. We did music videos for everybody. Like we done all of Jesse's videos the time I was working with her. We did Alessia Cara Here. We did Best Part, Low Life.
Oh, crazy.
Weekend, Celine Dion, Eminem, a bunch of videos.
Damn, I didn't even know that, bro.
Yeah, but before we did all that, the guy who directed this music video, Aaron A. I don't know if you're familiar.
I'm not.
Yeah, but he was my mentor.
Oh,
yeah, he's like one of my best friends.
Crazy.
So I remember when that video came out, I was like, and also just like that sound was like so new and fresh in Toronto. I'm like, this is like amazing. And I thought these kids had like, well, I call them kids, but grown men. But
yeah,
you know, back then I was like, oh, they got a really good ear for production. But yeah, I love
So
that
crazy.
record. I was listening to it the other day. I was like, wow, this record's crazy.
Man, such a flashback to a time. It was just, I think of high school immediately.
You were in high school when you did that?
Yeah, when I did that. Yeah. I'm pretty sure they were in high school or leaving high school.
Something like that.
I don't know, bro. It's all a blur.
Yeah. So, J. Cole, Middle Child.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about that. And then I want to ask just more, actually, even before that, like, how did that come about where you became such a, what feels like from the outside looking in, a very integral part of that team?
So I met Cole back in 2018. Long story short, we just linked up. We linked up one time in LA and like we just like hit it off. Like I just knew like, yo, this guy has great energy. He's a good dude. You know, a very humble guy. Like he's just easy to work with. You know what I mean? So we just started working from there, man. I think he caught the same vibe from me too.
Yeah.
He expressed that he was a fan of my production from before and wanted to cook up and stuff like that. So we just started linking up, man, and sharing ideas. Like I would share him a lot of stuff about production, like my views on production, like how I cook up. Like,
because he's a producer too.
He does, yeah. I actually got him on FL Studio too, like cooking up on my DAW and stuff.
Oh, nice.
And I learned a lot from him too, just like his approach to the way he thinks and making music. But yeah, I don't know, bro. When we did Middle Child, I actually just hit him and I was like, bro, I was like, bro, I would love to like executive produce like your music. And he's just like, yo, let me think about that. And he's like, let me sit and think about it. I was like, it's a big ask, but I want to think about it. And like the day before Middle Child came out, or like the day it came out, he's like, yo, like let's do this. Like,
the day it came out.
Yeah.
Okay, so like, you guys already made Middle Child and then you said to him.
Yeah. I was like, yo, I want to EP your stuff. Because I felt like we had such great chemistry. You know what I mean? And I felt like I could learn so much, he could learn so much, and we can grow together and work, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Collaborate for sure. Yeah.
Is that the first time you executive produced?
Yeah, pretty much. Man.
Wow.
Yeah, that was the first time. That was a thing too. Like that was a hat I wanted to try on.
Yeah.
And a role I wanted to pick up because it's a world I never even got into. Like even working with Drake, like it was usually 40 that was
for sure
overseeing everything. And,
for sure.
And doing that is like it's a different role, man. It's a different process. Like EPing stuff with Cole now is like it's so much different than just like, yo, making beats and sending them off. It's like,
what's that like?
Being well, you got to be present.
Yeah.
You know, you got to be super helpful in other aspects beyond just like putting together a beat. It's like now it's like going through vocals, you know, tuning vocals and opening up other people's tracks, fixing them up. You know what I mean? Like doing a lot of shit like that. So it's like it's nice, man. I feel like I love that role. I really come into that role well because I care so much about the details of the music.
Yeah.
I'm a very much like when I listen to a song, I'm like immediately I know what I love and I know what I don't.
Yeah.
So I know what feels good and what I don't feel. So I know how to like tackle those aspects. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I was supposed to like just making my own tracks.
Yeah.
It's like when I hear a fresh song, I love to go through an album with an artist. I love to like listen to a project with an artist and really like dive into what they're doing and like, you know, not necessarily critique, but just like pick out the magical moments and fix the ones that aren't.
Okay.
You know what I'm
But just
saying?
before an album comes out, you like to go through with the
Yeah,
artist.
yeah, exactly.
Okay. Now when it's like delivered and it comes
Yeah,
out,
no,
you're
no,
like,
no. At
yeah,
that point, it's done.
yeah,
But like
exactly.
to be a part of the process is like it's a lot of fun, man.
Do you get more enjoyment out of working with new artists than you do established artists?
I don't know. I haven't worked with a new artist in quite some time, to be
Okay.
honest. I've been kind of, I've been in such a bubble just in my life personally because having family
Sure.
and focus on Cole's work and stuff like that. It's like I really dedicated my life to those things,
Yep.
well, mainly.
Yep.
But this year, 2025, I'm looking to like work more with other artists, new artists,
Yeah.
established artists. Like that's kind of the goal for me.
Because I feel like I know that you want to break an artist. We think we've had this conversation before.
Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah, I mean that'll also be dope too, man. Like it's not easy. I will say it's not easy. It's a combination of so many things that need to happen
Yeah,
beyond just my control. So,
absolutely.
but I'm just open to just collaborating and working. Like I'm really having fun just like being creative, like
Yeah.
being in the studio and just like almost being at to service with people, like servicing others in the sense of like, what can I help you with? What can I do for you? What can I bring to this room?
Yep.
Like I love that aspect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the branding side of things, because you've worked with the greats, is there anything that you could talk to a younger generation of how to best brand yourself? And it doesn't have to be to these times, but like, what have you seen with, some of these amazing artists that you've worked with that like, oh, like, you know what, that's a specific thing that I think other artists aren't thinking about, but should be thinking about in terms of like branding who they are. Do you know what I mean?
Artists or producers?
Artist. Because I feel like, you've worked with some of the best artists in the world, right? So you're going to be
Right.
able to see like what separates. I guess that's more of the question.
For
What
sure.
separates them more?
Man, that's tough, man. I feel like it's so multifaceted, man. Like it's
Yeah.
like I could speak on the music, like for sure. Like I could definitely say having a sound is probably one of the most important things.
Okay.
For me personally, I think that obviously I'm biased because I make the music, but
No.
I feel like the first impression is the song. You know what I mean? Most times it's like, yo, what does it sound like? If you're gonna take a listen to an artist for the first time, you're judging their music first before you're judging
Facts.
anything else.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, how do you stand out amongst all these other people? Because the thing is with fans and listeners is like they already have their favorite superhero that they're listening to.
Yeah.
Like the person that occupies this space in their life. Like when they feel sad, they want to listen to this type of music, like that bads
so
up
true.
men. I want to listen to this artist.
Yeah.
When it's time for me to turn up, I want to listen to these artists. So it's like, where do you fit in the lane? Like that's what I'm always thinking about as an artist. Like where are you gonna fit in the lane? Like it's not just about making a good song. It's like, how do you separate yourself from everybody else?
Right.
What's your gift?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I feel like tone is like
Tone is everything.
is
I
like
feel it. Yeah.
man,
Tone's big.
and you know that because Jesse has such a special tone.
Right.
But I feel like when artists don't have an identity, it's like they get lost in the sauce. You know what I mean? There's just too much.
Yeah,
Again,
yeah.
like we said earlier, there's so much music.
There's so much music. Yeah. If you don't have an identity, it's really difficult to cut through the noise, especially now day and age. Like everybody's attention is all over the place. Like and even from like a manager standpoint, one of the things that I can hang my hat on is that I really understand the marketing and content side of things because I come from that world. But I can only take it so far. Like I can do things and like really help establish an artist, have a presence online.
Yes.
They got to play ball though, and a lot of artists don't like fucking doing content, which is fine. Like I get it. You're musicians first. You're not fucking influencers.
For sure. It's a different world though now.
It is.
Entertainment has become a different world.
Yeah,
Altogether.
Altogether. Yeah. You don't even have these like massive celebrities like you did before.
Yeah.
Right. But I can't really do much. If you got work ethic, we can get further. Right. But if you have work ethic and you've now carved out, like you said, like I call it, you ever read this book called Blue Ocean Strategy?
No.
It's amazing. It's basically talking about a blue ocean strategy is essentially a business idea that hasn't really been done before, where a red ocean is full of blood and everybody's kind of just trying to vie for a position in there, right? But so an example of that is a blue ocean is like Cirque du Soleil, Now we know it is to be massive, but back then it was like, a theater in a circus. It was like nobody was ever doing that before, right? So if you equate that to the artist, it's like, what is that thing that is your blue ocean that makes you stand out from other artists, right? And without that, it's really tough to really hone your craft. And it is a sound, like tone, like you said, is a big part of it.
Yeah.
But production as
For
well
sure.
is
Production's
massive.
huge too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Production's big. But I just feel like if we're talking artists, like their tone, like their identity. Like when you turn on the radio or I mean you go on Spotify, you
turn
listen
on the radio.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
Shit, I know. That's
you'd be surprised how important radio is still.
I know it is. I know it still is, but I
Yeah.
mean most people are
Yeah,
on Spotify and Apple, but you listen to music, it's like the first thing like you notice in an artist, if you like hear something playing, it's like, oh, well, that's Drake's voice, that's Future's voice.
yeah,
Like you hear it, like, oh, well, that's
cuts through.
Cole's voice. It cuts right through Kendrick's voice. So it's like, what is your voice? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Like, what are you portraying? What's the tone? What's the tone really?
yeah.
You know?
We were talking about this off camera, but I find it interesting that producers don't hear the lyrics.
I know.
Like it doesn't come first, I should say.
It doesn't, bro.
Yeah,
I don't know. I was just because I was saying like we don't like producers were just listening to the vibe.
yeah,
We're listening to the music, we're listening to the beat, we're listening to the melodies, we're listening to the feeling of it. And I feel like when it comes to listening to lyrics, it's like we have to sit there and focus. Like we have to sit there and like use another part of our brain. It's like reading, as opposed to just like
yeah.
watching a movie,
Right.
which is just like you're kind of in a daze. You know what I mean? You're kind of just lost in what you're seeing,
Yeah.
what you're listening to.
Yeah, yeah,
So I don't know. For me, it's like I always listen to lyrics last. Like
Yeah.
I'll listen to a song and like I have to be consciously focusing on the lyrics.
yeah.
Because I just want to catch a vibe to the beat, catch a vibe to the melodies. You know what I'm saying?
So I say, is it safe to say for you then production comes first, tone, melody?
Production, yeah, production, uh, tone, yeah, I say production, melody, tone. I think it all groups. I think that's to me like how we hear a song. Like I
Yeah.
hear all those things first
Yeah,
in one. You know what I'm saying? And then when I turn my producer ears on, I'm like listening to sounds and like
soundscapes. And
yeah, exactly, drums, and I'm listening to things coming in and out. But yeah, that's how I've always listened to music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious, man, and I don't know if you'd be able to say it, but like, how do you get your drums to sound so fucking nasty, man? Like,
I appreciate it, man. Bro, just years of being so fucking picky. That's what it is. It's
okay.
just years of just like being meticulous and
I've heard
and-
say that you hate everything you do. Like you work on shit and like you hate it. And
uh
until
in a way, it's almost like it's almost like I hear what I don't like first, usually.
right.
You know what I mean? It's
Of
like
course I
I
do.
pick up on the things that I don't like and then I kind of work backwards
Yeah.
in a sense. But that's how it is when I hear like even music in general. Like I always hear like, yo, I don't this thing I want to change, this thing I want to adjust. Like I want to get it so I feel the vibe of these things. It's like I'm healing the fucking thing, you know, I'm fixing the thing. You know, it's like a healing process.
Sure.
But for me, it's like it's just very meticulous. It's like I just take my time. And nowadays I kind of changed my process up. I used to back in the day, I would, when I go through like making a beat, like I'd have like a library of like millions of sounds, like literally, and just like I make beats from like a pack of just like so much options. Where now it's like my process is like, yo, I pick my favorite things that I feel sound good.
Okay.
And I put them together in like a smaller group
Okay.
and I create like that. And I feel like that's worked for like guys like the Neptunes, like Timbaland,
Sure.
like because if you listen back to their sound, their shit was kind of had like a sound of
Consistency.
it's consistent. Exactly. It had like a vibe. It had like a thing they went back to. So I was thinking to myself, I should just produce like that. It'll get rid of for me, it'll get rid of like the overthinking of like trying to find the right thing. Whereas like the right thing is already there. Just like,
Mhm.
just have fun,
Mhm.
just
Mhm.
create. So
But I say that I think in the beginning you would hear a T minus record or a record and you're like, oh, that's T minus. But I think as your career has gone on, I can't really place you. I
yeah,
just know it's hit
for
records.
sure. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Like the London, for example.
Yeah.
That don't sound like anything that,
No.
tell me about that record. How'd that come about, if you remember?
I was in New York, working with Cole, working with Thug, and yeah, I remember we were just in the studio. Travis Scott pulled up. He had like a show in New York at the time, and I remember they were all in the studio just cooking
No.
up and Thug and and Travis walked into the room I was in. I was playing a beat, and it was a beat that wasn't intended for them. I was just like playing a beat, and Doug heard it. He's like, "Yo, like we should try some shit like this."
Okay.
And he just like, "Yo, like load it up."
Yeah.
So he loaded it up. Travis went in the booth. He did like his 1-2. Doug did his thing.
Fire.
Cole did his thing, and that was it. That was it. Really, it was kind of unexpected though, because I never intended for them to take that beat. I never even wanted them to hear it. I would
Massive.
never even thought of playing it for them.
Massive record.
Yeah,
Massive record. Yeah, that was just by chance.
just by chance. It's
God's
just an
timing.
accident, a little happy accident.
Little happy. Those are the best.
Yeah,
But like
for sure.
that's a perfect example. Like I didn't even know that you made that until like a couple of years later.
No way.
No, I had no idea, to
Crazy.
be honest with you.
That's dope.
But that's what I'm saying. Like you're so versatile,
I
right? So like, you have a sound for sure, right? That you've developed, but I think you've gone so beyond that where you can do so many. You can land in so many different pockets. It feels like.
For sure. I mean, I love all music, and I still have dreams of doing different things, like doing different genres and stuff. But as of late, though, bro, I will say like I've been developing like a newer sound for myself, like
Okay.
even something that is just for me, like a
Okay.
vibe, a style. And doesn't when I say just for me, it's not intended for the world to hear it necessarily, but if the world hears it, they hear it. You know what I'm saying?
You working on something here?
Oh, I mean, I'm always working on stuff, man.
Yeah,
No,
well-
but actually, no, for real though, like
Yeah.
for me, it's just all about having fun, being creative. Like
Yeah.
what I'm referring to is just like a different sound as far as like production goes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
just I feel like music's been kind of stagnant lately, hip hop especially. So I'm just focused on like trying new things, and I feel like I stumbled on something really cool, really special.
That's dope.
Yeah.
That's dope.
It's just letting the world hear it. Letting
Yeah.
the world hear it at the right time.
How do you? That's another question I had actually. How do you know when it's time for people to hear it?
Well, when an artist hears it and they say like, this
It's
is
as simple as that.
yeah, as simple
So
as
you've been
that.
playing this shit for people.
Yeah, I mean, not really, not yet, because I haven't really been. Again, I've been so focused on family and
Yeah, of course.
in Cole world that it's like getting out there. I haven't even fully dived in. I'm actually looking forward to it though, like getting
Yeah.
with more artists. And
Yeah.
stuff like that. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Because I really want to share more of my music, bro, with the world any way I can.
One of the ways to do that is if you control the process,
For sure.
right?
Yeah, definitely. That's also been something I've been thinking about too.
Okay.
Doing my own project, putting out my own music. Yeah, for
Would
sure.
As that come further along, or I mean, still thinking through it?
Yeah, I think you know what it is, man. It could be a little analysis paralysis, to be honest, but it's also just like
Analysis process.
you ever heard of that before?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just overthinking the process, but also I'm also just so focused on other things, like so many other things in life, man.
Being a father.
I just had a third kid.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know what
Congrats.
I mean? Thank you, appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Finishing up Cole, yeah.
How do you? This is super important. I think going back to, you were like on a crazy run. I mean, just the whole 15 years is a crazy run, right? But you're on this crazy run up into 2013. Then you take a break to kind of just center yourself, and then you get back into it. What do you learn in that to be able to continue this longevity in your musical career? How do you balance it?
I mean, at this stage, it's like almost treat it like a bit of a 9 to 5, to be honest, without it being monotonous and boring. Like,
Yeah.
it's just making time for certain things. It's like, yo, at a certain time, it's like I have other things I have to take care of. You know what I mean? Like other people depend on me
Yeah.
beyond just like artists. It's like now it's my kids. So for me, it's just like I get up early now. I don't even, bro, I can't remember last time I went to bed at like 6 in.
Trust me.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm going to bed at like 11 nowadays. I'm on daddy time.
You're on that side
Yeah, I'm on that
of life.
side. Exactly. So, I'm up at like 7 in. You know what I mean? Get my daughter to school.
Yeah.
Come home. Then I have some time to do some things.
More regimented.
Yeah, exactly. Before it was chaos. Like it was like go to bed at whatever time, wake up whatever time,
Yeah.
hang out with friends,
Yeah.
make music, whatever.
Yeah.
It's just chaos, bro.
Yeah.
In a sense. Which
Just-
honestly it worked. It worked for me. It was fun. It was fun at the time.
Yeah. I get
Yeah.
it, for sure. And this business thrives on that chaos
For sure.
in many ways.
I know.
Right.
It is kind of crazy.
I find that interesting because I think you're talking about something where a lot of artists, I feel like they need to stay in that chaotic space, but like you haven't missed a beat, really. I mean, you continue to crush it. And so if there's any wisdom you could, impart on where, it's not a bad thing to be structured when you're creating.
For sure. No, I think it's great. I think even I've always also heard like a guy like Pharrell has been structured before. Like,
I spent months in the studio with him.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
awesome.
A
Yeah. So
couple years ago. That's where I met Barry. Funny
really,
enough.
oh,
Yeah,
okay, okay, okay.
yeah.
Yeah, for me, man, it's like I, I'm a big believer that like creativity doesn't has nothing to do with out here. Like I've never been the type where it's like, oh, I gotta go somewhere to get inspired. It's like, yo,
Mm,
inspiration is already in here, so it doesn't matter at whatever time of day or wherever I'm at. Like I can make music because it's like it's not coming from out here. Sure, the vibe is nice. If the vibe is nice, it can lift the spirit up or whatnot. But like for me, it's like, yo, I can make music right over there. I can make music in my car. I can make music at home. Like it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? For me, at least, and I don't think it does for other people. I think it's kind of a mind fuck. You know what I mean? Like,
okay.
yeah,
Mind-
I in the sense of like people think that like they need this chaos. It's like, nah, you don't need that chaos.
yeah.
Like it's all you can be creative at any point. You can be creative any time of the day. It's just practice. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
You practice well being chaotic and making music, then yeah, you're gonna get
That's
good at it.
yeah. And then
You could also be you could practice this having a healthy regimen
yeah,
and doing what needs to be done.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I feel that.
You know what
I
I'm
feel that
saying?
in many ways.
Yeah, for sure, bro. I mean, it's just life. You just move with what life gives you.
Yeah, especially when you get older, bro, because you need to slow it down regardless. Like
Yeah.
life will slow you down, man. The
For
gravity
sure.
gets lower, bro, when
For
you get
sure,
older.
bro. For sure. It's what it's all about, man. It's just figuring it out one step at a time. Like for me, like I never thought I would be waking up at no 7 o'clock in the morning to handle life
That's
type
the
shit.
time you're going to sleep at when you're in your 20s.
Yeah, for real, for real. But hey, man. And then honestly, when I work with other artists, sometimes I make it work the other way. Like
Yeah,
if I have to, if I got to go to bed at like 5 in the morning, it is what it is. We get it done.
yeah.
You know.
What do you like at this point in your career more? Do you enjoy working more with the artists in the studio or working at home sending out stuff?
That's a good question. I actually really enjoy like collaborating in the studio.
Mhm.
I find I get more success from that. Nowadays, bro, sending beats like beat packs is like so hard, man. Back in the day, it used to be like the way. I
Yeah,
would send a pack to Drake or whoever, and they're taking beats.
yeah,
You know what I mean? But nowadays, I find that you got to be in the room because there's just so many other producers that you're competing with,
right.
and most of the time, the artist is with a producer when you're sending packs, so they're not
True. They're
might
not
not
trying,
even listening to it or
not trying
checking
to
it.
open it.
Exactly. So for me, it's about getting
Yeah,
in the
imagine
room.
you're a producer in the room with the studio. Mine is Pat comes through like, nah, bro, delete
Yeah,
this.
yeah,
I
yeah,
ain't try-
yeah. Imagine it.
I ain't trying to get. I trying to get. No, I'm trying to get on the album.
Yo, for real. But yeah, no, I like being in the studio, man. It's just more fun. Like you can understand where the artist is at, and you can kind of figure it out with them. You know what I mean? Because I feel like it's not just about making a dope beat, man. It's about like getting in with the artist and almost feeling them out. You know what I'm saying? Like feeling out where they're at in their life or feeling out what they're trying to do and just facilitating the best way. Like I'll bring in like other people's beats or other people's ideas.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Just being a facilitator.
facilitator.
Too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really dope. Like I said, man, you're like, I think that approachable spirit of you also internalize that and take that to wherever you're going and putting other people on.
For sure. I love doing that, man.
Yeah.
That's been a great joy of mine as well.
Yeah,
Like through the years, like putting on some of the guys that I've known. Like
that's the most exciting shit, man.
it
Putting
is,
other
man.
people on. I think.
Yeah,
like,
because it's like you live through them.
yeah,
Like whenever I call one of my boys up and give them good news about a song, they're like, "Oh, so dope!" Like, thank you so much. They're so happy. It's just like I feel that joy.
especially if it's their first time.
Exactly.
Like, yeah, getting a
When
placement.
it's their first time. And
Yeah.
It's like you kind of relive that moment. Because like for me, it's like I've already lived that moment so many times. Like I've had the single so many times. So to watch somebody else have it, it's like, man,
Yeah,
it's like I get to live through
Yeah.
that again.
is that what keeps you excited?
Definitely. That's a huge part. Huge part for me. It's a community. It's about building up the youth and stuff like that. Like I love that side. I love collaborating with the guys that are new, like bringing them on. Like that's been a great joy for me.
You do a Twitch, or you were doing a Twitch?
I was doing Twitch a few years ago.
Yeah,
What happened was what slowed that down was I started traveling again for work because this was during
during
COVID.
COVID. Yeah.
Mhm. I was traveling again for work, and things just kind of got in the way with it. You know what I mean? Because
sure.
I was still focusing on my like production career. I couldn't just be a Twitch streamer all the time, right? So
Yeah.
and then eventually just kind of slowed down.
Yeah.
From there.
But you were taking in a lot of production.
a lot, bro. Oh my god.
What can you say about this new generation of producers? How does the climate feel like to you?
I think
of
it's
the things
great,
you're hearing?
man. I mean, it's all depends on where you're going, where you're listening to. Like, I hear a lot of these new producers, young producers, they're making really dope shit.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
it's just them having a platform and being heard more is important. But I love what the new guys are doing, man. I'm
yeah.
always trying to learn what they're doing too. You know what I mean?
Keep you sharp.
Yeah, exactly. For me, it's like I never want to feel old,
Yeah,
or you know what I mean? Like I'm gonna get old, but I don't want to feel old. I want to like stay tapped into what's going on and with the climate of the music and just have fun, man. And I find the music it's actually easier. It's like less as a vet, like it's like less for me to think about to make the type of music because it's like I feel like music has become less of a thought process growing up than it has gotten to now. You know what I mean? Like if you look back, like think about like all the production from like back in the day, like it was so
what won back in the day?
talking about even the 90s, 80s, like
Okay,
it took a lot of it took more work to me to make those type of records than it does now. It's like way easier to make a dope joint, like a
uh-huh.
dope beat.
Oh, even for you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I also feel like for in general, like making a beat is so easy. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like I can't imagine like Quincy Jones making a hit song in 20 minutes. Like that wasn't gonna happen back in the 70s or
Fair enough.
80s, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I feel like it's just
Yeah,
it's
that was a whole process. Yeah.
right. So it's like now it's so easy. So it's like for me, it's like as it's gone easier, it's become more fun. It's like less to think about. It's like, yo, I could just like whip together some shit really fast. I have all the tools there. It's like I embrace it. I don't shy away from it. Like a
Yeah.
lot of people are afraid of like AI and shit. It's like, yo, I want it. I want to fuck with AI.
Yeah.
You
You
know what I mean?
have to. I mean, I feel like if you don't, you're gonna be left behind. It's crazy how many people are like, nah, I'd rather not, or they feel like for ethical reasons. I guess I can understand it, but I'm like, I don't know, man. It's here. It's not going anywhere. Pandora's box is open, and I think you
For
should just
sure.
dive in and learn and figuring it out.
For sure. I think too, it's like it's the perspective, is how you look at it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
people are looking at it from a place of fear, but they
Fear
should be looking at it from a place of like acceptance. Like, what can this do for me? Like
or curiosity. Yeah.
you're right. You know what I mean? So it's like, no, it's like I don't even think of it like, yo, you'll get left behind. It's like, yo, there's just so much fun to be had with this new tool. It's like just have fun with it. Don't think about your job. Don't think about the money. Don't think about how you're not gonna sound unique or whatever the fuck it is. Like just have fun with it. Like don't
Yeah.
think. Just play with the shit. You know what I mean?
Fuck. I wish I could think of things like that.
I
When it
know,
comes
but
to
bro,
AI, like,
everything to me is perspective.
yeah, no, it's true. It's true. I'll look at something like that and I'm like, it's amazing. Yeah,
Right.
I'm not afraid, right,
Right.
of these new technologies and things. I'm like, but I also then immediately start thinking, oh man, this is gonna come after me. Like if I don't figure this shit out, so I start just like, you know, diving into these things like
sure.
AI, if we're talking about as an example, and I'm just like, all of a sudden, I'm like spending days, weeks, months working on this, and all of a sudden, like my efficiency is so amazing on this stuff.
Yeah.
And now I know how to prompt it, and
That's dope. I'm still trying to learn all the prompts and stuff like that.
yeah,
It's mad fun though.
it's fun. I'm about to put out this ad for a administrative assistant, and um, I put like this whole process on like figuring out the ecosystem, a Google form, giving me the right questions, spitting out a CSV or a file that I can now put into Google Forms, and then
Yeah.
this whole automation process, and it codes for me, and I put that. I'm like, this is insane, bro.
Yeah.
I would need 3 people to do that shit and pay a whole ton of money to make that happen. Now I'd
know.
get that done in like an hour.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
It's crazy. But I love it, man. I love it. I embrace it, man.
yeah.
I'm not running from it.
No, I don't think so, man.
Nah.
When you're, what would you? What's some advice that you give some of these new producers that are coming into the game or trying to get into the game?
I always tell them, man, like a big thing for me is collaboration, community. You know what I mean? Like getting in with other people is so important. Like get out of your basement. That's like my motto all the time.
Yeah,
Like,
okay.
get out the basement.
Yeah,
So many guys who are probably gonna watch this and see this or watching it from YouTube probably or from wherever, Instagram. It's like, yo, they're just some of them are just stuck on the computer right now watching this shit. You know what I mean? Just like, oh, like I just want to make beats in my basement and not share it with people. I'm too shy. I'm too scared what people are gonna think. Or
yeah,
like, yo, let that shit go. It's like you gotta share that shit. You gotta share it because it's like at some point, if you want the world to hear it, you gotta still like there has to be somebody else that has to hear it first. Like somebody's gonna hear it.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? I find that a
Mhm.
lot of guys, even artists, people who want to be artists, like I have a couple homies that are aspiring. They don't want to like they're afraid of the world hearing it. It's like, yo,
I know.
you need to like share this shit with people.
You know what's crazy? It's some of the best artists who are afraid to share shit.
I know.
You're like, yo, this is insane. What are you waiting for?
I know it's nuts, right?
Yeah.
I feel that. But yeah, producers too, man. I just encourage them to like collaborate with others and learn from others. Like it's so important to have community, man. Like that's what I had, and that's what helped me a lot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Going back to the artist there for a second, what are you saying to artists to like get them out of that headspace? I mean, obviously, like, you know, when they're afraid to share it to the world, is there anything specific that you'll say to get them to like, no, put this
I
out?
mean,
Or you let them,
yeah, I don't say too much because it's like I let the music speak. If the music is dope, I tell them like, yo, this is so great. Put this out. Like share, like don't hold on to this. Share this with the world.
yeah,
Like let the world hear this.
yeah,
I always tell artists, like, let the world like everybody wants to have the perfect rollout, but like nothing's ever perfect, man.
no,
It's never perfect. And the more you overthink it, the more you're like you're wasting your time. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
I've had heated arguments with artists in the past about
I
that.
can imagine.
Some that I don't even like, I've never worked with. You know, it's
Mm.
just like, but I get into these arguments, and it would be this thing that would come up and say like, oh, but you don't understand, you're not an artist. But I'm like, I don't know. I in many ways I feel like I'm a failed artist. I always say like managers are failed artists. Like we just weren't any good
I
at
hear you.
this, right? At producing or making music. They're like, oh shit, we're still all creatives, right?
For sure.
And so I'll like, and I'll be like, I don't know, like it's great. Let it fly.
Yeah.
But they won't. That's the imposter syndrome, I think, that a lot of
Yeah.
artists will run into.
For sure. Or they just, they want it to come out in a certain way or be perfect. But it's like the more you overthink it, man, the worse it is. I just feel like, yo, you're not just like that one song you put out. You're gonna have so much more time to release more music and
Exactly.
to gauge the climate of what people are liking. And truthfully, it's not even about that. It's like the right people are gonna like the music. Those are
Yeah.
your fans, like,
Yeah.
and they want to hear it.
And there's a way, like if you are consistent, like you can target those fans even today just with AI and
For sure.
how social media operates these days. You can build those subsets if you kind of know if
For
something is connecting, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's always ways to find it, especially a niche audience. And I think in many ways it is easier for people to connect with their fans, but they have to put the music out.
Yeah.
Just to your point.
Yeah. No, for sure. I just, man, I don't see what's the point of holding on. You know what I mean?
I think you think that maybe you should make a project as well too. And not hold on.
I
Let that
know.
shit fly, bro.
Hey, this guy.
I had to bring it back.
Nah, you're right, brother.
I had to
You're
bring
right.
it back, man. I remember talking to you and you said that over the years you've had people help you, but not necessarily like really had a manager. And I find that a lot of producers don't really have managers.
Mhm. I've had managers in the past. Like I've
okay,
had,
sorry, yeah,
I've had a few.
yeah,
But I don't know. Like they were great. Like having managers at certain times, like
Yep.
they serve certain purposes at certain times, and it was great relationships. But as I gotten older, I haven't really needed them as much because a lot of what a producer does, you don't really need a manager. Like, don't get it twisted. It is helpful. It is very helpful. If you have the right person in your corner, it's extremely helpful. And it has been helpful for me in the past. It's just that what I feel like I've needed and stuff in a manager, it hasn't been lately. It hasn't been much needed because it's like I'm
Okay.
so self sufficient. Like,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like I have the relationship with the artist, and I just do my work, man. I put my work in.
So if you don't mind actually going, like, what was good about having a manager at the time? Because obviously where you're at in your career, it's like, not to say you never have one ever again, but like right now, you
I
don't
think
need it.
relationship building
Yeah.
is always great. Like having somebody out there as like a point person, like helping you like connect dots and
Yeah.
connect with people and make plays. Create more opportunities. That's always been a great thing about having a manager.
Yeah.
Some managers they don't do that. Some managers have other purposes and
For
do
sure.
other things, right? So, but I think that's always great, man. I always feel like too, like the right person comes along at the right time if you're setting those intentions too. Like
Yeah.
a big part of like,
Yeah.
I feel like a big part of like the business is like not like forcing certain people. You know what I mean? Forcing people to be a manager if it doesn't work, or
Yeah.
or anybody for that matter. I feel like
Period.
in any role, but
Yeah.
for me, it's just like I'm so self sufficient, and I have have my attorney and stuff like that, and
I was gonna say this isn't a plug because it's the manager's playbook that everybody needs a manager.
yeah,
Because I don't think that either. I think there's some amazing artists that are self sufficient as well. But to what you just said, lawyers as well. I feel like even more important than managers for producers.
In some ways, yeah.
Yeah.
But managers, no. Managers are huge for producers.
Yeah.
I think it just
Yeah,
depends on.
not to obviously downplay that, but yeah.
Oh
yeah.
no,
Yeah.
for sure. Like for me, it's like if I have most of the relationships, it's like a manager where a manager can come in is like making sure deals are going through, making sure other opportunities are opening up. You know what I mean? Like one thing I loved about having a manager was, somebody that was like in LA handling things while I'm home in Toronto. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like that's super priceless. Like you can't buy that. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying having somebody who's like on your team running those plays,
Yeah.
it's really difficult to do that when you're at home. But you know what I mean? When that time comes, again, like I'm just so focused on my worlds right now. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, and really, yeah. I mean, if you're working with Cole and you're raising a family, like,
for sure. I also play like the role of a manager sometimes too
Sounds
for
like
some guys. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like
yeah?
I have like producers that I've signed who I help out, and not even just people who I've signed, but people I'm just always like on calls with, helping out. You know what I mean? So I get it, man. I get it. It's like I find that it's really helpful though having a manager who is extremely like outgoing and putting themselves out there. I find that like producers are so quiet, they're so shy. Most of them, I find like
Yeah.
they're very like they're on the computer. You know what I mean? They're
Yeah,
computer guys.
Yeah, yeah.
They don't want to be. They don't want to talk to people. Most of them.
Yeah.
So it's like it's good to have a manager who's like out there, like making
it
connecting the
shake.
dots. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
That's super valuable.
Yeah. No, that's I mean, that's basically one of the things that was always like for me it was more so because I'm not I like you said, like I don't know what a hit record is. And I mean people like for sure, but
Yeah.
like you said, there's so much more that goes into it,
Yeah.
right? There's the right artist, the right timing, the right label or not, independence, like there's so much that goes into it. But I know what I like and what I don't like.
Hmm.
Right. And I think I would have a good taste when it comes to that. But I don't have my hat on that where I've been really good as a manager. And I think for anybody out there who's thinking about getting a manager, if you're a producer, that person who can really network and isn't afraid to put themselves out there, ask the questions, be loyal to you, and be able to work rooms, super important. They don't have to be somebody that's also like superstar manager. And in fact, it's better that you don't have that because that person's not going to have the time for you as somebody who's starting anew. I always think if you're coming into the business and you're a producer, you're an artist, try and find somebody that's within your immediate circle who's like got a lot of love for you, who you could trust, and who is very curious, and that person will figure it out and they learn, especially if you guys have the same passion of music, right? Or trying to get you to another level. I think that's super important coming into this business. And if you're thinking about getting a manager or when it's time to get a manager, it's never a bad time, I think.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think trust is a big part, like you said.
Yeah.
And, you're right. Having a big manager sometimes could be counterproductive.
Yeah.
It's like they have so much going on, and like producers are not usually the priority when it comes to like a pool of like clients. Usually it's the artists that usually get more, unless you're like a hit producer. But I find that like producers were very low maintenance. We don't require as much. It's like send beats out, make some calls. It's never like it's not a lot of heavy lifting, which is why I've been able to do it solo for so long.
Right.
But yeah, no, definitely having somebody who's like to the streets, I think is super valuable. Somebody who's like tapped in.
It's funny. I was having this conversation and it kind of spilled online where I asked a question of like, what's easier or what's more difficult? Who's more difficult to manage is a producer and an artist. And most people say artist because a lot comes with managing an artist, right? But I think managing a producer is just as hard, if not harder. And not because the producer has all these things that you need to take care of like an artist, because like you said, they're more self-sufficient. But a producer, unless they're putting out the project themselves and have incredible relationships with the artists they're working with, they're just basing their life on placements. That's really hard because if you're just you're just hunting constantly.
Yeah, I can see that.
So making a career out of that is like, and as a manager, if you're taking only 20%, like that's a challenging job. So I should, shout out to people who do that on a
For
regular
sure.
basis.
No, I didn't even think about that. I'm always on the other end of that conversation. But yeah, I feel you. That's very true. It's funny you were talking just about managers earlier, and Ibrahim.
Uh,
He's Cole's
yeah, yeah,
manager.
yeah, yeah,
Man,
yeah.
he's insane. He's one of the illest managers I've ever met. Like this guy is like, he's like, he's not only a manager, but he's like a producer and
Oh,
like
really?
an A&R. Like he has like a crazy creative ear. Like I've never seen anybody work like this guy. Like he's like the top of top manager, man. Like
Okay.
but we'll be in the studio and this guy will like, he's so impactful to the music that whenever I'm working is like he's finding samples or he's like picking up things like, yo, I heard this song, I heard that. Like he's just always suggesting like really great ideas. And I feel like even having a manager like that is extremely, is a great example. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's hard to come by. You know what I mean?
He's creative.
Very creative. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? I always tell him all the time, like, bro, you're a producer, you're a super producer. Like this guy's
Super
incredible.
producer.
Yeah, he's insane. But I feel like it's hard to meet. It's hard to have a manager like that who's like also in the studio and like connecting with you and
Yeah,
like
yeah,
helping build,
yeah.
build records and seeing vision. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Being a visionary. That's tough. Sometimes some managers are just like kind of clock in when it's time and they clock out. But it's like to be in the trenches with you, like that's
But
hard to come by.
that could be a combination of a couple of things because I think also artists can, they might not want the manager in the studio sometimes.
Mm,
So for the artist or the songwriter or the producer to give the manager space to talk freely is empowering, especially if like I said, I think a lot of creatives in this space, even on the business side, right?
yeah,
So a lot of that comes to like the environment in the room, I think.
I agree with that too.
So if Ebe is getting the space to do that, that's amazing.
Well, like whenever I'm cooking, he like
Yeah.
with producers and stuff like that. He's always there, just like giving us ideas and pointing us in a direction, which is super dope.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You know who's good like that too? Manish?
Yes.
Yeah. He's good like that. He's always Manish is one of my closest friends in this business. I love the guy.
Yeah.
And he's always like, oh yeah, tell me what you think. Like, tell me what you think. And I'd be sitting there and I'd be like, at first, when I first started working with him, I was like, or seeing his process, I was like, oh, you coming to me first? Like, yeah, man, you're in the room. Like, what do you think? I was like, oh, this is, a cool experience. Dude, going through that, like, while going through it. You know what I mean?
That's crazy.
Yeah. And
That's
so
dope.
that's where I kind of get that perspective. I mean, with Jessie as well. Jessie was like really good at, she really has like a specific, I don't know how she writes anymore, but when we were working together, it's very specific about, a very limited amount of people in the room. But as soon as she was done that, immediately she was sending that record to Byron and myself and Jeremiah and being like, what do you think? And she was always good on like feedback,
That's dope.
Yeah.
Super important to have like a good like team to share those things with. Like that's so important, man. Like to be able to like take your music after, producer wise, artist, whatever, and just be like, yo, what do you think? Like that's helped me a lot in my career too, I think. Because it's
Yeah.
like it's never just been about me on the computer and that's it. It's always been like, yo, sharing with the world around me, you know what I mean? Before it got to the world outside.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, what do you think? How do I channel this to like everybody else? If everybody in this circle can fuck with it, then I know this can connect
Yeah.
greater than this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What's your there's a couple more questions here, man, but like what are your thoughts on where the landscape is in Toronto in terms of music and the culture of music these days?
Man, I think there's so many great writers that have emerged and artists that have emerged that are just popping up. Producers, of course, there's always gonna be great producers in
Yeah.
the city, man. Like,
Can you name a couple?
one dude, do you know Cage? Are you familiar with Cage?
No, I can't say
He's
it.
a new
That sounds
artist.
familiar.
He's
Oh,
like
Cage, the artist.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's dope. He's super dope, super talented. I've known him for quite some time, but he's still developing. He's putting out music nowadays, but he's super talented.
city?
Yeah, he's from the city. Yeah,
that's
he's
what's up.
super dope kid. And I don't know, man. I just like even Savannah Ray. Like she's
dope.
she's making her rise. I love Savannah.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
right,
yeah.
but
Shout out to
writers and
Savannah.
stuff too. And I'm just seeing them. You know what I mean? Like popping in and out. Like I'll go to studios out here and then I'll see. Oh, like people are just emerging.
Yeah.
It's good to see, man, because it's like back in the day, it was like really rare to find like great artists or great writers. You know what I mean? That was always rare in the city. It's always easy to find producers.
Yeah.
I feel like Toronto has been such like a great producer hub.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for a long time.
For quite some time,
For
right?
sure.
I think Toronto is like, I feel like Toronto is missing like infrastructure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It always has. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But what are your thoughts on that? Like, why do you think that is?
Uh, I think, well, I mean, when you're talking like from like a major label standpoint,
Anything, bro. Just like I feel. I mean, like yo, put it this way: Kilometers doing their thing. I think
yeah. Shout
they're
out to
really
Rodney.
emerging.
Shout out to yeah,
They're amazing, man. They're
yeah,
really making a really good name in the city, and I feel like people are. What I like about them is they're connected on the ground level. You know what I mean? They're
yeah,
connecting with producers, and
yeah,
they're
yeah.
bringing them together. They're cultivating like some kind of thing in the city, but I just find that like there's not enough of those type of entities that are happening in Toronto, and I don't know. I've always wondered why that never happened.
Well, I feel like it's less and less now than it was before. I think, when I mean, you guys had a crazy wave, with OVO, that was amazing. And then EXO was right there and like it was massive,
For
right?
sure.
And then the wave that came after that, I think in many ways was Daniel, Matthew
Mm,
Jordan, Jesse, myself, and Byron. Although Byron's from Vancouver and was living in LA, he's still Canadian though. And then there was other there was, I mean, like Roy Woods, Magic Jordan, they were kind of all under that OVO umbrella, but it was like a second generation almost. And then even Tory, right? But it feels like it hasn't happened in that way since then, since
mm,
us that came into that. I don't think that's a bias, maybe, but I could be wrong, but nothing's really like cut through in a long time.
for sure.
And I think that maybe the internet has something to do with it a little bit because I think that a lot of people think that they can do it on their own. They don't really need a network.
That's so true.
But I think that the more you're able to connect with people within your city, it's proximity, man. Like, if you guys can all get together and you guys could do some dope shit together, then why not?
For
Right?
sure.
You don't necessarily have to go to Los Angeles. I get the rub of Los Angeles. Trust me. Like when Jesse was coming up and we were coming up, first trip that we could take out there, we did it because we knew all the writers were over there.
Right.
And we spent months in Los Angeles and it was like amazing. So I do think that there's value in that. But I also think that there's value to be able to build within your own community,
Hmm.
to your own point, and
Yeah, man.
finding those people that it's a matter of time. I'm sure there's some kids right now that are probably watching this who are like, all right, we'll show you, like, and become the
Definitely.
biggest thing ever.
Definitely.
Right. But I think from like a major label standpoint, if you're signing, this is where I get in shit a lot with these. This is why a lot of times they were like, "Oh yeah, Ruiz is over here like shit talking us," but it's not that. It's just the honest truth is like if you're signing to a major record label in Canada, it's gonna be really difficult for you to blow up in the world because a lot of times what happens if you sign to a major label in Canada, in order for you to be able to have any type of runway in the States, you got to partner with the label in the States that the major you're signed to here in Canada. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Without that, you're not even allowed to go and do things in that other territory.
Mm,
So, but how many Canadian artists want to sign to a major label and just want to just stay within the Canadian market?
mm-hmm.
Nobody, right?
Yeah.
So signing to a major is very difficult. And then you get a partner in the US. And once you get a partner in the US, they got to split the revenues with the partner in Canada. They got to do, so why would I do twice the amount of work for less of revenue?
Mm,
I can just sign someone directly in America and get more revenue.
right.
I kind of think of it that way,
I
right?
get that. I get that.
Yeah, and the red tape and like it's just a smaller market, right? In many
Yeah.
ways. It's not to say that it doesn't work. I'm not saying that, but it's far in between that it could work. So to your point, the infrastructure when it comes to that, very hard. But as like you and like a small community, like is that amazing quote is like never doubt that a small group of individuals could change the world because they can.
Mm-hmm.
And if you got those individuals, like I mean, you've seen it, it's like whether it's Ebe and Cole or whether it's Oliver 40 and Drake, like that's entirely possible.
Mm-hmm.
And
I believe it.
and even more with social media and the internet and just like you don't have to have the majors, right? You could just go direct to the fans.
For sure. I think to your point, you said something earlier about it being easy. Like people think it's easy because they see it on the internet. Like oh, like I think people think that like being a star is like something that just takes like making a couple TikToks, putting out a couple
For
songs.
sure.
It's like I've literally had conversations with up and coming artists from even here years ago. It's like yeah, I remember I met this one girl and she was like, I'm gonna be the next Rihanna. I was like, yeah, okay. Like,
Shout out to you.
Dope.
Yeah.
Like, do you know the amount of work it takes to be the next Rihanna? Like, I don't think you understand the sacrifice and like the commitment you need to have. And she didn't understand.
She didn't get it.
She didn't get it. It's because it's like it just looks so easy. Artists make it look so easy, but people don't know what goes on behind the scenes. Like all the sacrifice and hard work. It's insane.
And it's not guaranteed either.
And it's not guaranteed.
Yeah.
But you need that commitment first and foremost. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like if that's what you want to be, you got to sacrifice so much and you got to commit your life to it. It's not going to happen by just putting out a couple joints.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
No,
it
exactly.
takes plenty of joints.
Plenty. Yeah.
Plenty of tapes, plenty of albums.
Plenty of tapes, man. Plenty of albums.
Yeah.
Hard work. I think you said it right there. Sacrifice.
Yeah.
That's something a lot of people don't want to do or don't even understand. And I always talking about it on this podcast about work ethic.
Yeah.
Because I know some incredibly talented artists who just don't have the work ethic. And you might have some success, as Troy Carter says, but you're not going to be able to go the full way.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But the person who has a good, strong work ethic, I even think a lot of ways, those folks that we call talented are really just people who have amazing work ethic. And are just like so dialed in and passionate to like what they do that then all of a sudden they're like talented.
Right.
But yeah, man, it's like you want to be Rihanna. Okay, are you waking up to go and be on a video shoot for 12 to 16, 18 hours? And then the next day, when you wrap up at 2 a.m, are you going to do press at the radio station at 6 a.m?
Right.
And are you going to do that for a whole week, traveling in a van from Philadelphia, Baltimore, New York, and back, right? Because the schedule has to make you go back to the city.
For sure.
Then you got to go into the studio and you got to finish the album, right?
I mean, man, even before that, it's like before even getting to that stage, are you willing to like do all the auditioning and travel here just to get noticed, just to be the ones performing in front of like 30 fans for like a year? You know what I mean? Are you willing to like do all these things that aren't necessarily going to feel great? Like if you believe enough, you know what I mean? Like, you know about the author for like Harry Potter, how she like
J.K. Rowling.
Yes, how she brought it to like 12 different people before it got picked. Yeah, it took her. I think she brought her book to 12. I think it was 12 different publishers, and she got turned down every single time. And then on the 13th, it got picked up, which is crazy to me. It's like, yo, some people would give up after the third, fourth, fifth time, or like rewrote it at least.
Yeah,
or like, no, maybe I got to change something. But no, she took that shit to 12 different people, and then on the 13th one, she got it, which is crazy to me, man. And probably there's probably many other examples of that happening in history where people just never gave up. You know what I mean? So I think, you know, some people they don't have the faith enough to just keep going. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's not easy. I think again, like they see it on the screen, like, oh, I'm gonna do this.
Yeah, because you see the end product.
You see exactly. There it is. You see the end product.
And
I can just do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, nah, man.
You know what informed me on that when I was younger, man? Wrestling. Funny enough. Like WWF.
Yeah.
Huge fan of that growing up. But I think like I may have said this on the pod or not, but I around 11 or 12, I became more fascinated with the backstage and the business of how it worked than the in-ring product.
Oh.
Like back in the day, there was a phone number that you could call to find out what was going to happen next week based off of like what they call the dirt sheets.
No way.
I was like 11 years old. It was Yellow Pages. It was free. You call every Tuesday, every Thursday and be like, okay, this is what's going to happen next and who's going to turn into a bad guy, who's a good guy, who's getting signed.
And they'll tell you?
They tell you all that. And then they'd be like, oh, there's conversations about like Bret Hart. You remember Bret Hart?
Mm-hmm.
He's going to go sign at the rival promoter for $2 million, which back then in 95 was a lot of money. Or like $3 million. And I'm like, oh, there's a whole business behind this. Right? And I was like, then I'm, you know, music in the film business and now in the music business, I'm like, well, if wrestling has a business, then music can't just be the music video that I'm watching and the song recording.
Right,
There's got to be this whole other world.
Right.
And that's when I started deep diving into that, informed by wrestling, funny enough.
That's crazy. That's really interesting. I never even knew that was a whole world in wrestling in that sense where you can call and ask these questions and they'll give you...
Well, no, you wouldn't ask the questions.
They would just tell you.
It'd be a recording. Oh, I'm aging myself like fucking crazy right now, but this is with like Yellow Pages. Yeah, I don't even know if people know what Yellow Pages means.
Bro. Even that is fascinating. Like however you put it, it's like that's still interesting.
Legit, every Tuesday there'd be an update. It'd be a voice recording of this person, and it'd be like 3 to 5 minutes, and they just give you all the business.
That's fire
on the business of wrestling.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
And then the fun part of it was tuning in to see if it would happen. Because I knew like at a very young age it was scripted, but it was
Right.
like it was still fun, you know. And I just always been fascinated by entertainment, and that was the same thing with the music business. I was like, oh, when I got the internet, because I have internet, so I was like older,
Yeah.
aging myself,
For sure.
but I was like, who's this guy that's like always just like with the who's this, you know, who's Dame Dash, who's Kareem Biggs? I see them, I hear about them, but I don't know much about them. I see them in the videos. Like, oh, that's the founder or the co-founder of Rockefeller. Oh, what does he do? Oh, what's an A&R? And that's kind of just, I think to that point, like whether you're a producer or you're a manager, you really got to have real interest in this stuff to really learn about this.
For sure.
Like I may not go through hours of thousands of different sounds of drums, but you will, because you're passionate about that and you're interested in that.
For sure. I mean, even like to your point where you're talking about like learning about the founders of Rockefeller, it's like to like around the same time, probably in my life, I was doing the same thing, but like producers and just like, yo, how did like I remember listening to the radio as a kid, like being like 10, 11 and being like, how do they play this music on the like? Is there somebody playing this live? Like I used to think that when I was like a little kid, like 8, 9. Are they playing this live? Like, is this happening live every time? Like I had no clue, bro. And then I didn't even know the process of making the music. And
that's so true. That's so
I
crazy.
know, like it's kind of true. It's kind of weird, crazy to think as a kid, but
you're so naive as a kid, right?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. You don't know the layers behind things, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think that's what's fascinating is finding out. Oh, there's a layer to this. Like there's, and I think that's what you figured out too with wrestling. It's like there's layers, but I don't know, man. It's so funny. Like just looking back, like just being in love with producers and production, and like finding out, oh, so this guy did this beat and that guy did that beat, and you can hear that. Oh, they kind of sound the same. Like I'm starting to hear it. It's like you start to make these connections. Like, oh, these are the people responsible for these things. Like, wow.
Yeah.
Really fascinating.
Does it still excite you?
Yeah.
The music as much as
For sure. Yeah, definitely. It's hard for me to like just like hear new shit. Like I have to go out and just listen to music. I find that like it's not the same as like when I was a kid and I turn on the TV or like
for sure
turn on the radio, or like when albums were dropping and everybody was listening to these albums. It's like
at the same time.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like I feel like that culture is not the same as it used to be, at least for me. But I still find enjoyment in like going on Spotify and like even taking a dive into an artist music and just like listening to all the catalog and things I never heard before. Just stuff like that, man. Just diving in, you know what I mean? Sometimes I don't do it. Sometimes I have no interest. And sometimes I catch a wave where I'm like, yo, let me just go study some of the greats, or like let me or just hear what's new, what's going on, like the climate of what's happening today.
How important is it to study the greats?
Man, it's super important, man. Like, I mean, for a minute I was listening to like Outkast. I was going back listening to their albums. I was just listening to like Dudgeon Family, like Pac and all that stuff. And it was nice, man. Like just to hear like, yo, I can hear the influence on certain people's albums today, like listening to like some of these projects. It's like, oh, like I see where you're studying or where you're grabbing from. You can really hear those things because it's like there's something special about that music. You know what I mean? Why it stands the test of time. You know what I'm saying?
Well, at this point in your career, you're also one of those greats. You're getting studied on a regular basis.
I guess in a way, man. Yeah, man. For sure.
Listen, it's amazing. I appreciate you so much for doing this, man. Like I said, you one of the greatest in the business. Just a dope dude in general, man. And I think if there's one thing that I could take away from this conversation, man, is that continue to study your craft. Just really deep dive into that and stay consistent.
For sure, man.
And you'll be good, man.
For sure, man.
I don't know if you're going to get to T- level, you know what I mean? But I'm pretty sure that,
yes, bro.
You know,
appreciate you saying that, because it's the truth, man. It's like you just gotta love this shit. Like you can't fake this shit.
Yeah, you can't fake this shit.
You can't fake it, man.
Yeah. Yo, man, thank you so much for this.
Yes, my boy.
My brother. Twin.
Yes, twin.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, bro.